Just moments ago, the White House escalated its ongoing war with the media by, for the first time in decades, if not the history of the White House, barring media from entering into a briefing that was held. At the very last moment, the New York Times, the Huffington Post, Politico, BuzzFeed, and a number of other publications were told that they would not be able to enter into a White House briefing. I'm Ryan Grimm. I'm the Washington bureau chief for the Huffington Post. I'm reporting here for the Young Turks. We're going to talk a little bit about that extraordinary White House move. We're also going to talk a bit about the hot water that White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus has gotten himself in. The New York Times and the Associated Press reported that Reince Priebus reached out to the FBI and pressured them to disavow reports that the FBI was investigating constant contact between the Trump administration and Russian intelligence services during the campaign. The FBI refused to do so, and not only did they refuse to do so, they apparently leaked the fact that Reince Priebus made this inappropriate call. Now, the White House is defending itself by saying, if you look at Reince Priebus' Sunday show interviews, and this is a fair point, that Reince says he spoke to intelligence agencies, and the intelligence agencies denied the report. Now, Priebus didn't say that he then told them, please go out publicly and disavow them. But if you believe him that they told him that this is untrue and the reports are untrue, then there would be not much wrong with him saying, well, look, there are these false reports out there. Can you do something to correct these false reports? The fact that the FBI instead leaked that he pressured them to do so strongly suggests that the reports are anything but false.
Jen Chesney says, is there a First Amendment issue here? Is there a grievance that the press can file? And Kyle Roma says, why don't they just boycott his press conferences already?
So is there a First Amendment issue? There's nothing in the First Amendment that says that the press must have access to all parts of the White House. So in a sense, the White House is free to bar journalists if they want from time to time, or they could try to bar them permanently. I think a good way of thinking about the First Amendment is from a cultural perspective. The laws that you have in place don't give journalists the power to do the reporting that they do. It's the culture that demands that those laws be enforced. You are much better off with a culture that supports a First Amendment and no laws than you would be with the amendment on the book and the laws on the books, and a culture that doesn't believe in a First Amendment right to a free press. And I get the sense that we're moving, or as part of the country is moving, in a direction that does not believe in a free press.
And I want you all to know that we are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. A few days ago, I called the fake news the enemy of the people, and they are. They are the enemy of the people.
While the media will jump all over him for crimping access and pushing back against the First Amendment, his supporters who hate the media will say, good for him. So, Trump's approval rating is at 38. So that means he has to go around looking for people that have approval ratings lower than him to pick fights with. The media is a ripe target with an approval rating of somewhere between 10 and 20% probably. So anytime he's picking on us, he's going to be winning. But that 38% includes probably 10% or so of people who are still nervously clinging on. So he risks eroding it further. And if he falls below 30, then all bets are off for where the rest of the Republican Party is when it comes to supporting Trump.
Elizabeth Cooper Schultz says maybe the media ban is a good thing. Trump won't obsess so much about his access. And Vanessa Andenberg says all the reports are true, and she doesn't say all, but there's truth to these reports about, I assume, Russia. That's why they banned the reporters. He's isolating citizens against real news.
So the White House's defense here is that they allowed a pool reporter into this briefing. And so the information that was shared by Sean Spicer is still going to get out to the media, and so they shouldn't worry about it. And on a small level, access to these briefings isn't necessarily that important for creating good journalism. Most of what these officials tell you in these briefings are lies anyway. But what's going on here is symbolic of an attack on the media. It's saying we feel powerful enough that we can cut off the norms that have created the relationship between the government, the media, and the people over the last 2 centuries.
Tracy Wells wants to know if there's a precedent for something like this, and Dennis Rooney brings up Richard Nixon and says that the media was what brought him down, and they'll do the same.
For a precedent on this, not exactly, but if you want a precedent for a conflict between a White House and a press corps like the one we're having now, you'd have to go back to Richard Nixon and his vice president Spiro Agnew, who would probably blush at some of the things that Trump now says about the media. But that was certainly the first modern era use of a political move that sets up the media as representative of an enemy of the people, and tries to say that there is the media and the elites and the New York and California on one side, and the people, the silent majority, and their leader on the other side, and that would have been Richard Nixon. We were in a much less polarized partisan time then, so Nixon's impeachment was kind of enabled by the fact that you had a lot of Republicans all over the country who spanned from liberal to extreme right, which meant it was harder to keep that party together. Today's Republican Party is a lot more unified ideologically and geographically, in the sense that it's rural. You can have rural Republicans in Michigan and rural Republicans down the South, but they're all rural. And so that is enabling Trump so far to keep that small base of support. But if you see some of that start to erode, that's where this starts to break apart.
Okay, so I'm learning from the conversation on Facebook that AP was invited but decided not to go. Were you aware of that?
So AP and one other organization left in protests, and so that's also an extraordinary moment. I spend my days with journalists up on Capitol Hill and the White House. Journalists are not people who want to take collective political action. These people by nature, they want to wake up in the morning, they want to get their story, they want to file it, they want to be first, and they want to go home. That's really what there is to it. They are not inclined to, certainly not to work together. It's an extraordinarily competitive industry. Everybody wants something first. A lot of a critique of journalism, they don't care what they get first, but they want whatever the news is first, or whatever they're deeming to be the news first. But they're not used to working with others. But now that Trump has established them as the enemy of the people and established the media as this collective body, it's starting to behave like a collective body. And so the AP and one other organization, and I apologize to the other organization that I'm forgetting who did it, they stood up and walked out, and I applaud them for that. And that's the appropriate move. And I wish that all of the others had gotten up and walked out as well.